Audio log, personal recording, date May 22nd. Subject, pre-transplant incident. Recorded for myself. I don't know if this is illegal to say out loud. I don't even know if it's real, but something went wrong before my transplant, and I don't think it was an accident. 3 months ago, I was put on the kidney transplant list. Stage 5 renal failure. Dialysis 3 times a week. I was 32 and exhausted in a way that doesn't show on the outside. When the call finally came, it was 1:17 a.m. A coordinator from the hospital told me they had a viable donor. Good match. Move quickly. I was told not to eat, not to drink, bring ID, be there within 2 hours. My mum drove me. The whole ride felt surreal, like I was halfway between being saved and being erased. When we arrived, everything moved fast. Consent forms, blood draws, cross-matching wristbands. They placed me in a pre-op room to wait for the final confirmation that the organ had arrived and passed inspection. That's when I met him. A man in blue scrubs, mid-40s, calm voice, badge clipped low so I couldn't read it from the bed. He introduced himself as part of the transplant coordination team. He asked if I was nervous. I said yes. He smiled and said, "That's normal. It's a second birthday." That line stuck with me, because later I realized something. No one else used that phrase. He asked me a few strange questions, not medical ones. "Do you know anything about the donor?" "No," I said. "They told me it was anonymous." He nodded slowly. "Sometimes knowing can complicate things." "Complicate what?" I said. Before I could ask, a nurse came in and he stepped aside. She seemed surprised to see him. "Can I help you?" she asked him. He smiled. "Just checking on our recipient." "Our." She didn't respond, just focused on adjusting my IV. When she left, he left too. No explanation. About 40 minutes later, another transplant coordinator came in. Different person. Different demeanor. She introduced herself and began reviewing the donor details. I stopped her. "I already spoke to someone from coordination," I said. Her expression shifted. "Who?" I described him. Blue scrubs, mid-40s, calm, said it was my second birthday. She frowned. "That's not one of ours." The way she said it wasn't casual, it was controlled. I felt cold pressure in my chest. He asked if I knew anything about the donor, I added. She paused. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. I don't." She nodded too quickly. Then she said something that I still hear in my head at night. "Good." The surgery was delayed 2 hours. They said there were logistical issues with transport. I was already prepped, IV running, gown on, consent signed. I overheard tension in the hallway, not shouting, just sharp, urgent whispers. Eventually, the same coordinator returned. "The transplant is postponed," she said. "Why?" She didn't meet my eyes. "Quality concerns." I felt like the floor dropped. Quality concerns isn't a phrase you want attached to the organ that's supposed to save your life. I asked if it was damaged. She said no. I asked if it was infected. She said no. Then what? She didn't answer directly. She just said, "We're removing you from today's case." Today's case, like it was a file. I was sent home at 6:30 a.m. No transplant, no kidney, back to dialysis. The official explanation on my medical portal said, "Donor organ seemed unsuitable after final review." That was it. No detail. 2 weeks later, I got another call. Another kidney. This one went through without issue. I'm recording this 3 weeks post-op. The kidney is functioning well. No complications. But I can't stop thinking about the first one, because something doesn't line up. Last week, I requested a copy of my transplant file. I told them I wanted complete documentation for insurance records. Buried in the intake notes from that night was a line that made my hand shake. Initial owner, ID reassigned. Reassigned. I don't know what that means in transplant logistics, but I know what it sounds like. I started digging carefully. I found a news article from 2 days before my cancelled surgery. A man had been arrested for attempting to sell a kidney on the black market through an online forum. The arrest happened in the same state my hospital sources organs from. The article mentioned something else. Investigators believe he had falsified donor registry documents to insert a harvested organ into legitimate channels. My blood went cold reading that. Falsified registry documents inserted into legitimate channels. I called the transplant coordinator and asked directly, was my first donor organ part of an investigation? Silence. Then, I can't discuss internal review matters. That's not a denial, that's a wall. I keep replaying the man in blue scrubs, the one who wasn't on the team, the one who asked if I knew anything about the donor. What if he wasn't hospital staff? What if he was checking whether I had a reason to question where the kidney came from? What if he needed to know whether the recipient might recognise something? Recognise what? A name? A connection? A story in the news? Or worse? What if that kidney wasn't legally donated at all? What if it came from someone who never consented? That's one more thing. When I logged into my patient portal after the successful transplant, I noticed something odd. The timestamp on my original organ offer accepted notification from the first surgery had been edited, not deleted. The acceptance time now showed 3:02 a.m., but I remember the call, 1:17 a.m. I wrote it down in my notes app because it felt important. Why change the time? Why alter the sequence? Unless the organ wasn't officially assigned to me when they first told me it was. Unless something had been corrected after the fact. I'm alive. The kidney inside me now is legitimate, verified, documented. But I sometimes lay awake at night wondering, if the first transplant hadn't been stopped, would I be carrying evidence? Would I have unknowingly become part of something criminal? Or worse, would the quality concern have shown up after it was already inside me? Because when I asked one of the nurses, off record, what unsuitable can mean, she hesitated, then said quietly, sometimes it means we can't prove where it came from. I don't know who that man in blue scrubs was. Security told me later no authorised personnel were logged into the transplant wing that night. No badge swipe, no camera record matching my description, which means I either imagined him or someone without clearance made it into a sterile pre-op room at 2 a.m. Both options are terrifying. I was desperate for a second birthday, but I may have narrowly avoided inheriting something much darker than kidney failure.